Stay connected as we discuss shared passions and firsthand experiences intended to enlighten, entertain, and encourage you to try new things. This is not a how-to, this is a why you should. Welcome to the You Should podcast. So let's see.
So good.
Yeah, a little messy on that one. So, hey, if you're new to the show, this is the You Should podcast. We're encouraging people to try new things. One of the things we do every time is we try a different beverage. So today we're starting with Beechwood Supernova. This is an Indian Pale Ale. We're going to take some sips of it and we'll let you know shortly what we think. All right. Today's guest doesn't always carry, but when he does, it's responsibly, lawfully, and with deep respect for everyone around him. He's built businesses from the ground up, always makes time for friends and neighbors, even if that means helping re-roof his neighbor's house. He's a protector of people, a builder of dreams, and a man who lives every action like it matters. He's a voice of reason in a world of noise, an ambassador of accountability, and an advocate for responsible firearm ownership. He's a legend in the making. Welcome back to the show, our friend, Jeff McCabe.
Wow. Thanks for that intro, Mike. It's good to be back and get to talk with you guys again.
Oh, yeah.
It's an interesting topic tonight.
So how does it feel to be a two-time guest on the You Should podcast?
It's a privilege. Yeah, two different topics, completely different. But I'm happy to be back, and this is always an enjoyable thing.
Well, I think this topic is right up your alley. I mean, you're a huge gun advocate. You're a huge hunter. You have a business that deals with guns. But if we're ever going to have a topic that dives into the world of guns, there's nobody else I can think of.
Thanks, guys. And I'm not an expert. I'm not a lawyer, first of all. I'm not the expert gun guy that's going to tweak out on every cartridge and caliber and this and that. I like to say I'm more middle of the road. I'm an even keel guy and can see both sides of guns in America.
All right. So tonight there's really three main topics that we're looking to discuss. And the first one would be people that don't own firearms but are interested in exploring that as an option. Again, the You Should podcast, we're trying to get people to try new things and do the things they've always wanted to do but haven't for whatever reason. So we'll get into what does responsible gun ownership look like for someone who's just getting into it. Then we'll talk about people that do own firearms today. And then ultimately we'll probably end with something around, I own firearms, but I no longer want to have them. And like, what do I do with them? Right. So with that in mind, we'll kick this off.
Yeah. So Jeff, why should someone consider owning a firearm?
Well, aside from hunting, if you grew up in a state where you're hunting or you grew up and your dad takes you out for quail or something, you're being already exposed as a teenager. So hunting, rifles and shotguns and that stuff aside, talking about just firearm ownership and specifically in California. So we live in a country where firearms, we have the Second Amendment and we are unique from any other country in the world that we have. It's a right to own a gun if you meet, the standards required by the state and the federal government. So in California, if you want to own a gun, there's a couple of reasons. One, it can be a ton of fun. You go to a range, you're shooting, it's exhilarating, you're controlling in your hands, literally an explosion and aiming it and controlling it. And it can be just a lot of fun as a hobby. And a lot of people find it relaxing, enjoying. The other thing, and probably the biggest thing, is self-defense. And I'd like to talk a little bit about, having a gun in a home. Self-defense could be that you're going to go to the level where you decide to get a concealed carry permit and you want to carry a gun every day. Or do you just have one, are you a guy and you want to be able to protect your wife and your kids? Or what if you're a woman and, it's been said that a gun, a firearm, the Colt, single action or whatever, is the great equalizer, because you can put that gun in the hand of a 110-pound woman and all of a sudden she becomes more powerful than a 300-pound guy. And there's a reason why that the power that comes with that. And so some people are really drawn to it. Some people are really terrified of it. And a lot of people are in between.
So in your experience, what do you think the terror is that people have? What do you think that's based on?
Well, I mean, the obvious is that what you're holding has the ability to take a life in an instant. It's very easy to have an accident. If you don't know what you're doing, you could hurt yourself, you could hurt your child, you could hurt, someone
Absolutely.
could take it. I mean, the ability of a firearm to take a life in an instant, and you can't go back. So it is a huge amount of responsibility, and there has to be a huge amount of respect for it. And I think with that comes healthy fear. And if you don't have that healthy fear, I'd be a little scared to be around you,
Right.
if you've got a gun.
Yeah.
So
So what do you say to someone who says, you know what, I have a hesitation. I'd love to own a gun. I just don't feel safe around having a gun in the house. I have kids, or, I've
Mhm.
never owned one. I've never fired one. I would like to have that self-defense element, but I just don't feel confident.
Yeah, so I actually get asked this question a lot. Part of the services we provide is we'll go in. It's usually when someone passes away. Let's just take an example of a gentleman dies and he's got half a dozen old guns, and now all of a sudden his son or daughter are responsible for those, and they don't know, and so they're calling us, hey, what do we do? How do we navigate this? And I usually get where one of them says, hey, I'd like to keep a gun. What do I do? So the first talk is always about children. California law is just, law after law after law. If there's ever a child present in your home, that's anybody under the age of 21 now, it used to be 18, that gun has to be locked up. If a child ever has access to a gun, whoever the gun owner is, it's a felony. It can be. So I always start with kids. Are there kids in your home? Even if you don't have teenage boys, but you've got teenage daughters, well, guess what comes with teenage daughters? Teenage boys in your
Right.
house. And you never know who's here when you're out of town or this.
I
and
mean,
that.
I
So
hate
it's-
saying it, but, in my teenage days at a couple parties, some of my friends would be over to party, and again, just what you said, we're going through somebody's house, they get their hands on a gun.
Yep.
Thank God nothing ever happened. But yeah, you're right.
So if to go back and answer your question, if someone's wanting to, for the first time, say, hey, I think I want a gun, either for sentimental reasons or I think I do want to have that in my home. My first talk is, where's your skill set? Where's your head at? Are there kids present? California requires that you have an FSC card. It's called a firearm safety card. It means you take a 30-question test at a sporting goods store, a gun shop, and you get a little card that is supposed to give basic gun knowledge, but it's only 30 questions.
Right.
I think you can miss up to 8 of them. It's and
Hey, 7 out of 10, Mike.
yeah,
7 out of 10 is a pass.
High probability of
It
passing.
gets
that
you
one.
done.
there is some good stuff in there, just general knowledge, but there's also, it's like idiot proof. Like,
Is it harder to pass the driver's test than it is the firearm safety card test?
100%.
Yeah.
So it's more, it does do the service of letting some, getting people to understand some basic laws, but also I think it's a little bit of a, politics, money grab.
Right.
It's $25, 30 questions, nobody fails from what I understand.
Right.
But beyond that, there is no safety required. You do get some pamphlets and a brochure when you buy a gun. You don't have to read them.
Nothing like getting the pamphlet. I mean, that always gets read. What do you think gets read more? That or like how to work your VCR back in 1986,
Exactly.
right? What do you think got read more? So I'm going to say the VCR pamphlet got read more.
Yeah, I agree. So the threshold of safety for buying a gun in California is fairly low. And even though we have the strictest laws in the whole country,
Yeah.
the safety is minimal. So I always tell people every single gun range out there is going to have instructors, classes you can take, whether it's an indoor range, an outdoor range. I a lot of time am talking with women and they're like, hey, I want to keep my dad's gun. I want it for safety, some sort of, scenario like that. And a lot of ranges will have now women instructors. And then I tell them the key is as you go in and you say, I want a one-on-one instructor. And when is the slowest time of the week? When is this place dead? If it happens to be a Tuesday morning at 9 a.m.,
right,
nobody's in there, that's when you want to go in there. Indoor ranges can be really loud. You got 12 ranges, lanes where guys are shooting. It's intimidating. It's scary. The smell, it's loud. Guys next to you, brass flying, and that can scare a lot of people off. But if you get in there on a Tuesday morning and there's nobody or one other person and you've got an instructor and they're walking you through it and getting you proficient and comfortable, that's the best way to do it.
Totally. I remember when Lisette and I, my wife, started dating, and we had only been dating 3 weeks. We go up to the Kern River. This is the first time she meets my whole family. And so we take her shooting, target shooting. And my dad set up a human target, right? We gave her a 9mm,
A
and
silhouette, just to clarify, like you didn't have someone standing out there. It was just a silhouette of a.
I love how I'm just waiting for the one time Mike doesn't jump in and do the clarification.
That's my
Like,
role. That's
if there's
what I do.
anybody that thinks that there was a human body, like a real body out there, like
You did say human target.
we got a cadaver. We got a cadaver from the morgue.
I got
We
one
took it out
job to
there.
do here, and I'm trying to do it well.
It is funny though, the clarification.
Making sure.
So we get her out there, right? And we probably stood her no more than 15 to 20 feet away from the target, right? And, she does the double hand. She did not hit the target one time. And it just goes to show, to your point, how difficult that is. You can't just buy a gun. It's not like the movies where you're going to be doing the side angle shots, from 30 yards.
So speaking of guns, a lot of times I'll get a, either, it doesn't matter, male or female. If it's your first time owning a handgun,
Yeah.
and every guy's like, I want a Glock, or I want a SIG, or, I want my 1911 or whatever it is.
What's a 1911?
It's a large frame, 45 caliber pistol.
It's the one that's on the screen right now.
Oh yeah, that one. Okay, yeah, I get it.
It's a semi-automatic.
Yeah.
It's actually.
It's what Magnum PI carried back in the day, if that helps you. Magnum PI carried.
nice.
I don't know how to verify that, does he?
1911.
Oh,
Magnum
okay.
PI. Oh, yeah.
But it was actually designed by John Browning in 1911,
Mhm.
and where it gets its name. So it was a World War I, World War II handgun. It's iconic. It's tried and true, but it is a big gun.
Yeah.
And when someone's getting their first gun, self-defense, home protection, and people are going to disagree with me out here, but I actually say get a revolver. And there's pros and cons, but a revolver's only going to hold 6 rounds, where you get a Glock and you can hold 16 rounds. And people are like, well, look how much faster this is. Look at how many more rounds I can reload. But most incidences of self-defense happen within 3 to 5 yards. So that's within 10 to 15 feet. And it is over in less than 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Self-defense shootings.
Right.
At that point, either somebody has been hit and they are no longer now attacking you, or they're turning around and running. So needing 16 rounds, there's very few.
Again, I'll never forget this. When we took our hunting class,
Mhm.
the instructor, he was an old, this is 1985. So the guy was probably 70 years old.
Mhm.
So which means he was born in 1915, right? So he's showing all these photos of people with that's right when the 30 clips started coming in. He's like, what the are people putting, why do you, if you're out hunting, why you don't need 30 bullets, right? In a gun. It's just not even there's no reason for that.
There's not a hunting situation where you're hunting deer and you need a 30 round mag. If so, you shouldn't be hunting.
So backing up, I'm new to firearms. I want to get a firearm.
Just anybody's first time. If you want a good self-defense, home defense gun, I'm a big fan of revolvers. Yes.
Okay. Because of ease of use. If you're looking at home defense, it's kind of a no-brainer.
So a couple things. A semi-automatic handgun has a lot of functions. One, the slide moves. You have a magazine that goes in it. And let's say there's a scenario, midnight, it's dark, you're asleep or you're just drifting off. Maybe you've had a glass of wine or 2, and all of a sudden, crash, there's a door getting kicked in. And I don't care whether you're a guy or a woman, your adrenaline starts going and your cognitive stuff starting to go in. What do I do? And if you decide to go for a gun, the semi-automatic, you have to think, is the mag, do I leave it with a mag in it? Is there a round in the chamber? Does it have a manual safety? Some of them have hammers. Is the hammer cocked? Do I have to rack it? They have slide releases. They have decockers, and they have mag releases. I mean, some of them have all those. There's a lot of buttons and levers.
Right.
I've heard more than one story. Somebody gets a gun and they start pushing, and all of a sudden in the middle of the night, they hit a mag release. The mag drops out and it's on the floor. Your gun is pointless. The other thing is, if you don't keep it with a round in the chamber, now you have to have both hands to cock that gun in the middle of the night.
Right.
What happens if by the time a you decide to get a gun, somebody is already in your doorway or in a room or on top of somebody. You don't have both hands.
Right.
A revolver takes one hand. There's no safeties, no buttons, no levers. You just pull the trigger and it turns. If the gun for some reason doesn't go off, you pull the trigger again and it will go off.
Right.
It doesn't ever jam. And there's just no question whether it's loaded. And it's by far, to me, the most reliable, safest defense weapon they have.
So easy to operate, but
Yes.
revolvers come in all kinds of flavors.
Yes.
So different sizes, different calibers,
Mhm.
different. So you can't just go into the gun store and be like, all right, give me a revolver. That's like walking into a restaurant saying, hey, I'll take a beer. Like, you got to be a bit more specific.
Correct.
Okay.
So you're right. There's a lot of different calibers, sizes, barrel lengths, colors. You want a laser on it, different grips. But in short, a 38 caliber revolver does the job. It's a medium sized round. It's not too much that the average person can't handle it.
That's what I was going to go with. Like a 9mm is a little bit lighter, but it is something, if you are going to have a home invasion, pretty much you can handle that and fire it. And I would even say, dude, have your fingerprints safe, have it ready to go, safety off, fully loaded, bullet in the chamber. If you're really in that frame of mind, you get up, you put it there, the gun, you're going to access that in 5 seconds, and then you just start pulling the trigger.
Yeah. So storage and safety is a whole nother topic
Right.
here of if you're going to have a firearm in your home, once again, if a child is ever present, that has to be in a locked box.
Right.
If you want to have a loaded gun in your home, you can do it safely by having it in a biometric keyed combination. I suggest that you mount that box down. So if your house gets broke
100%,
into,
right.
nobody just walks out with it.
I think that is the only way.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a loaded gun in the house, that is the only way. It either has to be with fingerprints.
Now, there's a
That's the
different
only
scenario.
way.
Let's say, let's say you're a guy or a girl, you're 30-year-old living by yourself and there's nobody else ever in your house and you choose to keep it in your drawer. There's nothing illegal about that. So there's a difference between legality and common sense. The drawbacks to that could be what if somebody breaks into your house and they're waiting for you when you get there and now they've got your loaded gun?
Or even if they're gone, they've taken your gun. Like, who knows what's happening with that, right?
Correct.
You don't want it in the wrong hands.
Correct. So, yeah.
So I can tell you a good story. We'll see if Mike leaves this in or not.
Okay.
So my niece is a junior in high school. My brother goes up to Big Bear for the weekend with his wife, and he tells Savannah one thing. Savannah, do not come back to our house. She goes over to her friend's house, who they know really well. And it's Saturday night, 10:30 at night. My brother gets a phone call, answers it. Hi, Mr. Caviston. Yeah, this is John from the Newport Beach Police Department. We are at your house. Do we have permission to enter your house? There's about 400 kids in your backyard. So my brother goes, yes, I have 15 guns. This is where they are. Please go in there and check. And they went in. The police went in and checked every single. He was on the phone with them, he said, for about 40 minutes. They checked every single gun.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were not in he had a couple in a lockbox, but a lot of them were not locked up. And he has 400 kids roaming the property and just,
And that's the thing. Even if
scary.
you've got a teenage girl that's not into guns, you think she's never going to touch it.
she's not. She has
She's not.
0%.
But what happens when she's got a bunch of high school
Right.
boys over
Yep.
there and they're drinking and
Yep.
smoking and whatever else they
So
do?
I get the phone call from my brother at like 11 o'clock. I go down there. I see Savannah. I mean, there was not an inch of the backyard that did not have a beer can on it.
Sure.
And she's like, are you mad? I'm like, Savannah, your dad's going to take care of that. I'm just here to take you up to my house for the night. Like, I'm not mad. I will say, I told her, I'm like, this is probably one of the most impressive things I say. So to conclude that story, one of the guys on the police force was also one of the dads his daughter was on my brother's softball team. And he goes, man, we haven't had a party like that in like 5 years. So, but no,
Yeah.
to that point
You
though, having loose guns
Yes.
in the house,
Right.
I mean, is definitely,
Yeah.
It's a great point. I think most people probably don't consider because they're not thinking. They're like,
Right.
oh, well, my kids understand, right? But
Mhm.
as your kids get older and they have friends over and you're not, micromanaging them because they're a little bit older, like, yeah, God forbid somebody gets a hold of something and
So part of being a responsible gun owner is making sure that gun is always accounted for and always secure,
Right.
and that you have access, or you and maybe your spouse has access,
right.
And that's that's part of the responsibility of owning a gun.
Yep. So back to, okay, I've decided I want a revolver because I listen to the YouShould podcast and everything they're saying makes sense.
And there's going to be a lot of guys out there that disagree with me on that.
No, which is totally fine.
On what?
Right? So
a revolver over an auto.
Yeah.
Well,
whenever I think of a 9mm, I think of an auto, right? Like just kind of the clips in.
Yep.
It's not on the, everything's off in the chamber. It's just ready to go. It's basically boom, get it, start firing.
So if you train with,
but you are right about the revolver. You are 100%
well, here's
right.
the thing: an auto is a much better weapon for law enforcement, military, or somebody who is trained in that gun. It can fire quicker. It can fire more rounds. It can be reloaded quicker. As long as you have magazines available, it'll just keep going. A revolver, once you shoot those 5, 6, sometimes 7 rounds, then you've got to stop. And I mean, the reload process is very slow. Right. So there's a right place and the right person for autos. And if we're talking about being an offensive type situation, I'm going to start arguing an auto, but we're talking about defensive. An auto,
and that's probably not even the gun you're going to go with. If I just want a rifle gun defensive weapon, it's probably going to be like a 17-inch 12-gauge shotgun that you're just kind of.
I would argue against that as well.
Goes through the wall and hits your kid.
No, but it's so picture a revolver, and it's small. You've got it in one hand. You can then be fighting somebody off. You can be opening a door. If someone's on top of you, you're pushing or hitting. You can still you can shoot it right-handed or left-handed.
Single hand operation.
Yeah. If for some reason, this hand gets broken or somebody's got it, you could pick it up with your left hand. So there's a lot of scenarios. We're talking about defensive, where somebody is within that 3 to 5 feet and they are going to, you feel like your life is in danger. That is the scenario we're talking about here, not an offensive, whether you're, special forces in Iraq and you're holding off a group of people coming at you with your handgun. That's not what we're talking about.
Right.
Okay. So I'm interested in purchasing a firearm.
Okay.
Right. They've taken everything that we've discussed and like, okay, I have an idea. If I flip the script and it was like, hey, I wanted to buy a, pickup truck, I would go test drive 10 different pickup trucks and I would pick the one that fits me the best, that has the features that I like. When it comes to pistols, like you can't walk into a firearm store and say like, hey, I'm going to go borrow a couple of these and take them for a test drive and pick the one I like best.
No. So there's 2 options out there. One is most gun ranges will rent guns. So you go in there and they've got 15 revolvers from a little 22 to a 50 cal and different size grips and weights and lengths. And finding which one fits your hand and your style and your weight, your strength. And you can rent them, shoot them, come back after 3 rounds and say, this isn't for me. I want this one. And the gun ranges will work with you. Here in Orange County, I'm going to throw a little shout out to Evan's Gun Room and Peter, the owner there. They have a phenomenal training. They are very hands-on. They're very understanding. And if you went in there and explained, hey, this is my first time, I need to try, that's what they do. They're going to walk you through it and they'll have instructors there and you can try it. The second option is find somebody who is a gun guy. And usually everybody's got some brother-in-law or cousin or, and if they're a responsible trained gun owner, ask them to take you out. They're probably going to have 3 or 4 different types. Go out, you try them and maybe you're more comfortable with that person than a random instructor. And as long as they're an educated, responsible gun owner, a lot of times people get trained by friends and family. And that's another route to go.
So caliber will dictate size. Talk real quick about barrel length when it comes to revolver and why that matters.
So most, if we're going back to revolvers, most guns are between a 2-inch and a 6-inch. There's the exceptions to all that. There's some really little micro ones, and then there's some,
what was Dirty Harry's? Was that? I feel like that was like a 10-inch.
I think it was like an 8-inch 44 caliber.
that sucker was like,
that was on the other end.
Right.
Not very many people ever want to shoot
Yeah.
that one very much.
Theatrics.
Yes. But for most, self-defense, home protection, an accurate gun, 2 to 4 inches is plenty. That's not what she said. Edit.
The size of the barrel will also help with recoil a bit or muzzle rise, will it not?
Yeah. So the more weight that's out there, the heavier that is out on the end when the gun goes, it kind of counteracts the recoil. So a 2-inch gun is not as comfortable or as enjoyable to shoot as a 6-inch gun. But a 2-inch gun is more maneuverable. It's smaller. It's more concealable. And in a situation where adrenaline's going, everything else, you're not going to notice. But if you're going to the range and you want to sit there and shoot for, 30 minutes and put a couple hundred rounds through it and really work on your accuracy, maybe you want a 4-inch, or, they make 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch. So, and that 4-inch gun can be very accurate and more enjoyable to shoot and still used as a self-defense gun.
And really the goal would be finding something you're comfortable with that doesn't scare you.
Correct.
So the barrel length can contribute to finding that right fit.
Yes. So caliber, barrel length, size of gun. They've got some really small 38s, some really big 38s. If you're a, 95-pound girl, you don't want a big, dirty, hairy gun. You want something that you can comfortably control and hold, and you've got to be able to own that.
Right.
Yeah.
So my opinion, there's only reasons you're getting a home invasion. One, they're there to steal your jewelry or something, and you just happen to be home. The other one is they are there to get you specifically. Right. Now, I think people like it because the what if. Well, what if I'm the 1 in 5 billion that the random people just somehow picked out my random house, get in there and take my big screen TV at 2 a.m?
Well, here's the other side of that is, the what if you're and it's different. If you're a guy that's been working out and a little bit of jiu-jitsu and you're like, I got this. And it's different. You're a single guy. I can take care of myself. Robbery is not what I'm worried about.
More assault.
It's assault. It's my daughter being raped.
But where?
Right.
What if you're fishing with the guys, or you're at a town, or you're doing something else? You've got 3 targets here in your home. You've got a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful girls. They are a target. Would you want, if some, let's just say some cracked out guy, some homeless guy, some pervert, whatever else, sex offender, he comes in here, he has the run of the place. There's no way.
I still think that's like saying Godzilla is going to come wreck your house.
Yeah, but the odds of your house burning down are probably in the same realm.
Higher.
Well, maybe, but
do you not keep fire extinguishers in your house?
correct.
Yeah.
Do you
Because
have
I feel
insurance?
that's a higher percentage.
Do you have
Okay.
insurance?
Yeah. I
Like-
don't think there's not people roaming around our streets in Orange and saying, you know what, I'm going to go get Jeff's daughter.
You ask the person who's been raped.
But it's peace of mind too, right?
I think that's it. Ultimately, that's it. To have peace of mind.
So is the risk, actually the statistics, if you have a gun in your house, of that gun hurting you or your family is much higher than you actually using it in self-defense.
Right.
So to your point,
Yep.
Mark, if you choose to have a gun in your home and you have kids or a family, or you're just single or whatever, the odds of you or someone you love being hurt with that gun is much greater than you ever using it in self-defense.
So, Jeff, I think a lot of people, when it comes to gun ownership, they really like the peace of mind of having a gun in the home. What can you speak to that?
There's pros and cons. Statistics say, and it's been proven, that if you have a gun in the home, you or your family, someone you love or know, is much more likely to be injured or hurt or killed with that gun than you actually use it in a self-defense scenario.
So, meaning there are more instances of accidental problems than there is intentional problems against a bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
those numbers are small compared to gun ownership, just to be fair.
True.
Okay.
True. So most responsible gun owners never have an incident in their whole life.
Correct.
But the odds go up. If there's a home without a gun, the odds of there being a gun incident in that home are nil.
Right.
If there's a gun in your home, the odds of you having a gun incident go up dramatically.
Of course.
And that could be from it accidentally going off. It could be from you accidentally shooting somebody. Quick story. I personally know a guy who, at probably 26 years of age, got married for 6 months. He had been drinking and probably partaking of weed, and goes to bed with his wife, wakes up in the middle of the night to hear something breaking in his kitchen. He's not too clear-headed. He grabs his gun by his bed, and he hears all of a sudden that noise, and he hears someone coming down the hallway. And he looks up, and 2 seconds later, there's someone standing in his doorway, and he fires, hits the person, and kills his wife, who went out to get a glass of water, dropped something in the kitchen. He woke up in a stupor. He wasn't charged. He was arrested, and he spent some, days in jail as they figured stuff out, a big investigation. That poor kid has never been the same.
Right.
And there's tons of tragic stories like that. So yes, having a gun in your home's a big liability and a big responsibility. The other side of it is, we talk about the great equalizer for a guy that maybe is not fit, maybe doesn't work out, maybe doesn't know jiu-jitsu. It allows him to stop a threat to protect his wife and his kids. Let's say a woman, a single mom or a single woman, there's a threat, somebody wants to assault them. It gives them the ability to stop a threat. And for a lot of people, it's understandable. And there's times it may be needed where a woman is being harassed, she's being stalked, an ex, something like that. Sometimes for her to empower herself, go take classes, learn that gun, and become proficient, and now she has the ability to protect herself. That is big on a lot of levels, just not psychologically, what it could do for a woman.
So just to recap, it sounds like gun ownership may not be for everybody. You really need to consider the pros and cons, right? There are other things available to you to protect yourself. If you are inclined to acquire a firearm, you need to go through and do your due diligence and research and practice and pick the right firearm, and then probably shoot and train with that firearm as well.
Yes.
Okay. So with that, our next segment, it'll be talking about you own a firearm and all the things that encompasses.
Sure.
So before we do that, let's take a quick break. Okay.
All right. So one of my favorite segments on the show, we have our You Should movie battle pick'em. And what better to have than Tombstone versus Young Guns? I mean, this is our gun episode. I mean, come on. These are the two best Westerns, I feel like, in our lifetime. So we're going to go head to head. And Jeff, you will be faced with making some tough decisions here.
All right, let's go.
All right. So if you had to pick one crew to do some damage behind you, are you going with the Young Guns crew or the Tombstone crew? Are you going with the Whiter brothers and Doc Holliday? Are you going with
the Regulators?
Yeah, with the Regulators.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'd have to go with the Earp brothers.
What crew would you want behind you? You're going into a gun battle.
Then
what crew would you want behind you?
Okay, then the Young Guns. Because we'd all be hopped up on peyote.
We're in the spirit world.
Regulators.
What about you, Mike?
I think I got to go with the Earps and Doc Holliday. They were professional gunfighters, and the Young Guns were young kids.
I agree. I want Doc. I don't care where he is. If he's side-eyed behind me, I want him. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to go with that.
But yeah, who do I want to hang out with more? Probably the Young Guns. Regulators were a better time. Yeah.
So I feel like this is kind of an obvious, but who was the better gunslinger, Doc Holliday or Billy?
I'd say Doc Holliday.
Yeah.
I'd say Billy capitalized the historic part that I understand on being lucky, on being crisp and fast, and taking advantage of a element of surprise.
I feel like, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's one of those, like, as the story continued, the legend grows, right? So like Billy the Kid maybe is a little larger than life as the stories continue to get retold, perhaps.
And Billy the Kid may have just sometimes been a flat out murderer.
Yeah. Well, weren't they all?
Yeah.
All right, better last stand scene in the movie. We had when Doc Holliday meets Ringo, right? In that, or in Young Guns, right? When they're in the house and everybody shows up in front and they start burning the house down and they skin out the back and they get away.
Well, they threw the big case out the
They
window.
threw the case
as
out
they're
the
throwing
front,
everything else, and then
right,
Billy
they're
jumps
throwing
out
out.
front.
Yeah, Billy
Yeah.
jumps
Guns
out.
blazing,
Right,
yeah.
he like sacrifices himself. They all skin out the back. For you, which had more of an impact?
I think the Young Gun scene was more, as a kid, I enjoyed that scene a lot.
Yeah.
Completely not believable, but it was enjoyable.
Watching that as a kid, I think it was a much bigger, grander, but I think as an adult, definitely appreciate the Doc Holliday Ringo
I would
scene.
agree.
Yeah.
I mean, this is so hard because when you said these were two of your favorite movies, I was like, God damn it. This is going to be so hard to
It is
choose because I love both of these movies to my core.
But they're
to my
different.
core. They are different.
They're completely different.
So to that point, this is so hard because I'm always Young Guns. It's so hard for me not to choose Young Guns. Yeah. But I would agree with you, Mike. I think I'm going with Doc Holliday and Ringo. When Doc Holliday walks in out of the shadows and Ringo's like, I didn't think you had it in you. And then he realizes it's Doc Holliday. And he goes, yeah, my fight's not with you, Holliday. And he's like, I beg to differ.
Yeah.
Right. We started something that we never finished. Right. And so Ringo's like, oh, I was just joking around. And when Doc Holliday goes, I wasn't. Then Johnny Ringo's like, okay, all right, yeah, let's do this. Right. And it's just, you get the close-ups of the eyes. You have this tension. They're kind of circling. And when Doc just says, say when, right? And then there's this moment. It's it was more of like
much more dramatic.
It was like you're right. It was more of like a man v man, right? Versus the overall scene of Young Guns.
There was a lot more going on there than just a gunfight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So more charismatic, right? Doc Holliday or Billy the Kid. So Emilio or Val, right? I mean, I love both these guys. I feel like, God, Val Kilmer in that movie was so good. And again, Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid was so good. He was brash. He was cocky. He was just.
But there was parts of him I didn't like.
Right.
He had a little part of it. that brashness I kept. Yeah.
Right.
I didn't care.
So who's your character of choice between those two guys? Because I feel like those are the two standout guys in those movies.
Sure.
Yeah. I think Doc Holliday, it was a better character, better actor, better. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Between the two, I would probably pick Doc. I would pick the Val Kilmer character. What's funny in Young Guns is I actually liked Doc better in Young Guns than Billy. I mean, even like Chavez.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Lee Diamond Phillips' character was amazing.
Like
each of those characters kind of stood on their own.
They did,
which was amazing.
Yeah,
right?
I liked Val Kilmer, and
but Doc Holiday's hard to beat.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer's.
I know it was almost like that was when Val Kilmer was at the top of his game.
Oh man,
for sure.
Right, like he was coming off like just all those movies. Like that was the top of his game. I feel.
Well, I don't know. There was Heat right after.
I mean, oh my God, Heat. I mean, the Doors were right in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just he had that run there, which he was just amazing.
Yeah.
So, what movie would you show your kids first, Young Guns or Tombstone?
Young Guns.
And I would say Young Guns. Yeah, I feel
more
like
entertaining.
Yes, I agree. Like I feel like we're all in agreement there. I feel like Young Guns is such an amazing movie. It really, I don't know, it really, because we were like, I was probably 17, 18, 16 when it came out, and it just hit.
It was more fun.
Very fun.
You get pumped up watching that show, and it's more fun and action packed.
Right.
Tombstone's more intense, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, more drama.
Yeah.
You want to bring?
Go ahead. So we're back from our film fight. Tombstone v. Young Guns. I feel like there's no wrong answers there. One of the things I wanted to ask you is just the different types of gun users that there are. So who's the weekend shooter?
Gun users or gun owners, it kind of breaks down into a couple categories. You've got, like law enforcement who's carrying for their job, or, you've got hunters. They've usually got, bolt action rifles, shotguns. They go out, once or twice a year, and they're more hunting, either duck hunting, birds, that kind of stuff. You've got the target shooters who are, they go to the range and they're all about precision and target and practicing. You've got the person who is the CCW, the concealed carry guy who carries every day and is all about self-defense and maybe a little bit of prepper in him, that kind of stuff. You also have those people that we were just talking about, the home defense, somebody who just wants a gun for defense purposes. And then the other categories, you have the people who own guns, but don't fit any of those categories. That usually looks something like, yeah, my dad was a cop, or my dad was a hunter, or my dad was a, collector, and he passed away and I inherited those guns. And then sometimes it goes on a generation and then they pass away and all of a sudden somebody's has a gun or
Yeah.
several guns.
Right.
And they don't fit any of those things as far as shooters, but they're still in possession of
Yeah.
guns. So,
And what's the best way if you end up with a bunch of guns through relatives or the hand-me-downs, and what should you do with those?
so it depends on what sometimes that interests people into then like going, oh, my great grandfather was a target shooter or he was a hunter and I want to take his rifle or his shotgun and go out and follow in my grandfather's footsteps or my dad's footsteps. And that can be, there's a tradition involved. And when you have a firearm that, was a great grandfather's either in the war or that he carried because he was a cop in Chicago or whatever the story, or, he used to hunt birds with this. The sentimental value that can be attached to a firearm is so incredible. Especially, it seems more for men than women, but to have that gun that was your dad's or your grandfather's or something, sometimes they do nothing. They just want to own that piece of their family and that nostalgia. And all I say then is just make sure that, that gun is locked and you're responsible and it's not going to get stolen or, fall into the hands. But sometimes that's all that is.
So what about people that have guns, they've inherited guns, they've been handed down to them, and they're not shooters? They don't necessarily want to have that gun.
Yeah. So if the gun has sentimental value, it was your grandfather's gun. It was your dad's gun. He used to go hunt, birds in Oklahoma or whatever. You keep that gun. It's a piece of history. It's a piece of American history. And I tell people, write down what the history of that gun and keep it with the gun. And then that way, if you pass it on to the next generation, they know now their great grandfather and the story behind it, whether it was a military weapon or a
Right.
service weapon, something like that. There's federal law and state law. Federal law is protected inheritance. So those guns can go directly from a mom, a dad to a child or grandfather, grandmother to a granddaughter. They can go directly down that blood chain without doing anything. It can't go to a stepson. It can't go to a cousin or a brother-in-law or a neighbor. It can't go anywhere outside of there. But federally, it can go directly down that chain. And that's so that to ensure that those guns are kept inside of a family. Once again, document it because that history is going to be lost once you go or your dad goes or somebody else. And once again, I'm not an attorney, but they require...
Did you stay at a Holiday Inn last night? So Jeff, if I've just bought a gun, what should my first steps be?
I would say educate yourself. Once again, California, what the pamphlet they give you in the FCS test is very, very minimal. Educate yourself on the law, the legality, the liability, we talked a little bit about, the threat to yourself, other people with you, storage, safe handling, transportation, where you can use a gun, shoot a gun. What are the laws with self-defense? There's a huge amount of education that has to go behind being a responsible gun owner, is understanding all those laws. And
That's such a great point, because I feel like when we buy a gun, we're just thinking protection. Right. That's
or fun. I want to go to the range
fun,
and I want to
I'm going to go to the range. I'm going to go hunting.
Yeah.
If you get a rifle, you're right. All these other elements that are part of that gun ownership.
Yeah. So using the gun, becoming proficient with it, practicing with it. There's different ways to do that. You can get what's called a snap cap, and it's a fake bullet. And if you have an auto or a revolver or a shotgun or a rifle, you make sure that the gun is completely unloaded. There's no live ammunition anywhere in the room with you. And you can practice loading it, cycling it, whether it's a pump action or a lever action or a semi-automatic. You can run through the whole thing and practice with your safety, practice dry firing with those, which means pulling the trigger and actually firing the gun, but nothing happens. And it's safe to do that with most guns with a snap cap. It's basically just a fake bullet.
But it's a little red plastic bullet that doesn't look like a real bullet. It's easy to tell the difference, and it's used for training.
Correct. Those are well worth their weight in gold because it just familiarizes with you. So if you own a gun, just like any other tool, you want it to become second hand. If you own a Makita drill, you want to be able to turn it from reverse and, forward and be able to, put a new bit in it and put a battery into it without having to think of it. You don't have to look at the drill to do any of those functions. It should be exactly the same way with a firearm. So
I got to say, I think the worst thing you could do would probably be you figure out which firearm best, you shoot it one time, and now you have it and you put it in your little lock storage box that you bought at the time you purchased your firearm, and then it sits there for 10 years. Right? There is something to be said, like, you're never going to rise to the occasion in an emergency. You're going to rise to wherever your training level, if you're proficient.
Correct.
And if you've never used it, you're a danger to everybody around you.
It's been sitting there for 5 years. If you own a firearm and you haven't touched it in 5 to 10 years, you probably shouldn't be owning that firearm.
It's a great point. If you think of it as I always try and draw parallels to cars, right? Because everybody understands, like, cars, like, you have to go take a test, you have to pass, you have to show proficiency. You get a firearm, right? And you put it in storage for 5 or 10 years. And then, God forbid, there's a time where you need to go use it. That would be like passing your driver's test and then never driving a car, and then an emergency comes up. Are you going to be proficient to get in and get you from point A to point B in an emergency?
Exactly.
100% no. Like, you're going to get in a crash on your way to wherever you're going.
Exactly.
So do you guys do like 2:30 a.m. drills?
For sure.
Naked?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, naked, or you have your I feel like you have your boxers on.
I don't know boxing.
But
Like, do you ever just like, hey, let's do a scenario, right?
well,
Hey,
so
Brianne, all right, this is what we're going to do. Like
home defense
2:30 a.m.
Yeah,
That's not the time to do it, but
No?
there is training that you can do.
Yeah.
Mike and I have had the privilege of being on a course together, and there are training scenarios you do where, like, we will load each other's magazines and put one of those dummy rounds in there, and Mike is shooting, and in the middle of it, he has a jam. It doesn't go off. And how does he clear it? How does he clear it? How does he reload? Or we short load? So there are training techniques you can use that really sharpen your skills. And just the basic function of loading a magazine, putting it in a gun, cycling the gun, shooting the gun,
No, and Jeff, and to your point, I think some of my funnest days have just been out target practice. Like when we went to your property up in Saddleback, and, my dad went, and we were shooting at 200 yards or 300 yards, whatever that was. Like, that was just fun, right? Shooting at targets, and then we'd shoot. Oh, did you get it? Did you not get it? You also have like a little handgun, range there. And again, that was so fun just doing that, right?
But out of that fun is practice.
100%.
And it becomes familiarizing yourself again with those guns. Once again, if you haven't taken out that gun that you went up and shot up there in 10 years, do you need to own that gun?
Yeah, like I would say, don't just buy a gun to have it for home defense and put it in a drawer and do the what if. Like, there's so much. It really is a cool sport. There is a sporting element. Whether, like, we've done the clay pigeons, we've done that. We did that for a little bit. That was super fun, right? We've done everything, and it's not just, hey, I'm going to buy it, put it in a drawer for the what if something happens.
So to that point, once again, if you haven't taken your gun out in 10 years, not only have you forgotten how the gun works, but all the laws have changed in 10 years. Laws change twice a year in California. January 1st and July 1st, usually laws go into effect. And a gun that you legally bought from Big Five or Turner's 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago is now a felony in California. So you have a AR-15 that you legally bought that has a bullet button in it, and you haven't taken it out and you haven't looked at the laws, and you decide, I'm going to take that out and go shooting. You'll get you could get arrested for a felony. So what should you do
if you own one of those? Like, what is the proper procedure?
So keep up to date with laws. And if you don't know,
and if you have a gun that is out of date based on new laws, what do you do with that?
Depending on what it is,
can you retrofit it, or is it just a lost gun?
You're currently in possession of a felony.
What do you do?
So step one, right?
Yeah.
You have a gun, you're listening to this, it's been there 10 years, you're like, you're right, I should probably go to the range. I should probably go figure this out. If you're worried that you're not up to speed on gun laws, wherever you're going to go shoot, right? If you're going to a range, ask the people at the range,
Yes.
hey, this is my situation, right? Take a bite of humble
Yes.
pie and say, look, I haven't shot in 10 years. I own this gun. Am I okay? Like, is anything
Okay.
changed that I need to be aware of? I think you just have to ask, right? That's the problem is we all want to assume like I'm a
Yeah.
macho guy and I got a gun and I know what I'm doing. Bullshit. Like ask
yeah.
the people that know more than you.
The guys that bought, have a high capacity mag. So you need to ask. You need to ask a gun range. You need to ask a gun shop. You need to call a company like ours and ask these questions, because you legally could have bought. I can't tell you how many times a guy bought a guy in his 30s bought a gun in 1990, and now he's 70 years old and he's like, I've got this gun. I bought it from Turner's and it's legal. And it's like, no,
Right.
you have an Uzi in California
With
you
a
want
45
or
bullet clip.
You've got 30 round magazines. Those are illegal. You have an AR-15 that
Doesn't meet current spec.
Yes. And so how do you know whether the gun you bought 10 years ago or the ammunition you bought or the magazine you bought is currently legal? Is you need to humble yourself and you need to ask somebody, a professional.
Yeah. No, good point.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. So where do you see misuse happen most often? Is it lack of training, bad storage, carelessness, just not up on gun safety?
Well, I think there's probably 3 aspects to that. One, an accidental discharge usually comes from lack of training, not knowing. Gun's been sitting there for a year, 2 years, 3, 5. You're not familiar with it, and a gun accidentally goes off. You didn't know, you forgot you loaded it, you didn't know how to check. That's number one, and that is, basic gun safety. Number one is you treat every gun as if it was loaded.
Right.
Number 2, you keep a gun pointed in a safe direction at all times. If you follow those 2, even if a gun were to accidentally go off, it's not going to hurt anybody. But so often people don't know, and they're looking and they're trying to manipulate a gun, and so that's,
you're at the kitchen table, you're there to clean it, you got the family in the living room, and all of a sudden something goes off.
Yeah. So that's number 1. It's training, familiarizing yourself with the gun you have and how to handle it. Number 2, I would say, is storage, because it's not just that, your kid got the gun, or, God forbid the gun gets stolen. Now it's on the black market. It's out there on the street. Crimes are going to get it. It's going to get, sold to gang members. Who knows what happens?
Well, I think that's a great point, Jeff, because if we take the total percentage of guns, a small percentage are from like the home invasion. I need to have it in my drawer, right? There's so many guns that they're my hunting rifles, they're my range rifles, pistols. They're not for the home invasion, and the proper storage of those is hugely important.
Yeah. So something we haven't talked about here and doesn't get talked about a lot, and I think us guys, a lot of men have a problem talking about, is mental health. And you can be a legal, responsible gun owner and have a gun. You could be well trained with it. Look how many police officers have guns and have accidents, particularly suicide. Speaking, percentage-wise, the number 1 method of suicide in middle-aged white males is by their own firearm. So guys tend to turn to that a lot. That's something a lot of people aren't talking about and we're not addressing, but you can legally own it, be well-trained and versed in it, and have it stored. And maybe for 20 years you've had that gun, but then you go through something. And I think being a responsible gun owner is also saying, hey, right now, maybe it's not the best time I have a gun in my home. That's got to be the hardest thing for any of us to say. And that could be going to a really close buddy or a friend and just saying, hey, can I store this?
If you have that thought, what is that first call? What should you do?
You know what? There's a lot of help out there. There's this national suicide number. Maybe Mike could put it up on the screen.
It's on the screen right now.
Okay. If you call that, they will help you. And it's no questions asked. It's nobody's going to know. They're not going to run to your house and tell your family. Like if you're there, reach out. It's discreet. They're going to help you. If you've still got the wherewithal to you that's starting to become a possibility, think about your kids, think about your wife, think about your friends. Hand those guns off to your brother, to your best friend. If you don't have any of that, you can call a company like ours, California Gun Services, and do some temporary gun storage. Nobody has to know. You get it out of your house. Drug abuse, alcohol, and mental health, they don't mix with guns. And part of being that responsible is to have that idea of like, maybe I can't be responsible for that gun right now. And that's something that most people don't talk about and don't bring
No, I
up.
agree. Like I've never had that conversation, like not even broach the topic.
Yeah.
And I feel like as guys, right, a lot of time we're ashamed or we don't want to admit that or we don't want to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So we just kind of live with that.
But in reality, every single one of us guys, we go through ups and downs. We all have problems with our wives, problems with our jobs, problems with money, problems with our kids. We all have temporary depression where just life effing sucks today.
Are you saying that chicks can put us on edge, Jeff? Is that like are you making a hypothesis that women can somehow influence the stability of a man? Yes or no?
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Mike, what do you think of that?
Yeah, of course. It's probably top of the list.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's the top of the list.
Yeah.
Above jobs, above money. It's
Sure.
it's our relationships.
Yeah.
For sure.
And
If you found yourself in that situation and you didn't know who to call, you don't have a buddy that's a gun guy, you're kind of on an island, I got to assume, call your local police department, explain the situation. They'll send an officer over to take possession of your firearm and you could get it back at a later date if it was an emergency.
Yes and no. You can call most local PDs. I've found that sheriff's departments are more approachable to come and remove firearms. You don't have to tell them what's going on. You can just say, hey, there's a gun in the house here that we need removed for any reason.
Right.
And if they give you a little pushback because they don't want to send a deputy over, just push a little back further and just say, no, this firearm needs to be removed from our home.
Right.
That's all you have to say. You don't have to say anything else.
Right.
Now, you most likely won't get the gun back.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the police department and the sheriff's department is not a gun storage facility. Once you surrender it, there's a very slim chance you're going to get the gun back without going through some major hoops.
The most important thing though, at this particular moment would be not ownership of an item. It would be your safety.
Now, oddly enough, there are very, very few gun storage facilities in California. I know there's one in San Diego. The law contradicted itself on how guns could be stored and went through an FFL and released back, all because of the California DOJ. It was corrected last year. And so now FFLs, federal firearms licensees in California, can do a temporary firearm storage.
So for the layperson, an FFL would be like a gun store.
Yes.
Yeah. Think of, whatever your local store, sporting goods store that sells firearms has an FFL.
So they have the ability now to legally store it. But most of them won't. You can't walk into a Turner's, you can't walk into a Big Five and say, will you hold my gun for a week, a month?
Exactly.
They're
like, get them out of here.
Right.
Yeah. They're almost non-existent.
Right.
So because of that, California Gun Services we're just breaching this now that the laws changed last year.